we're going to have a quick Q&A session, so you can type your questions about Brazil or China in the chat. They don't have to be related to only food. It can be about basically anything you want to ask.
You already had one question.
Okay.
What other treats are in Brazil?
Oh, what other treats? Okay. So for birthday parties, there are many variations of brigadeiro that people do with different ingredients. We also there's a sweet that I love that is made, it's called cajuzinho, which translated is called little cashew, which is just a cashew sweet that is amazing. Let me see. Didn't think about this. I eat more of salty foods than sweets, but we have so many sweets in Brazil. We have many chocolate-related sweets, and let me think. I blinked.
Sai, if you want to answer that question.
Oh, yeah.
You could.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In China, I think, well, recently people have been eating a lot of bakery food, surprisingly. So lots of baked goods, pastries. Some people, they put, instead of having it only as sweet food, there's some pastries that people will put meat inside. So sometimes I've bought bread and there's been like a hot dog in there, which is kind of strange. But aside from that, there is something called yuan xiao, which is like a really small little ball of kind of dough, like rice dough, and inside it you put there's sesame, like a sesame seed paste. It's just something really sweet, essentially, and you eat it in, like, you boil it and then you eat it in the new year. I think it's another New Year's dish. And there's another called little mooncakes are also a really famous one. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but they're about like this size-ish, so they can vary, and people eat them during the Moon Festival. Yeah.
And for Selma, have you ever been to Carnival? And are there special foods served during Carnival?
I love that question. Okay. Carnival, for whoever doesn't know, Carnival is this amazing festival / period in Brazil that we have. It lasts like technically a week, but it lasts a whole month. And it's just so much fun. I've been to Carnival several times every year since I've been like maybe 13. I always went out. We have little parades in the street and everyone goes out and we just like have fun, chill with your friends, just everyone out in the streets. There's music playing, like an allegorical car like passing by. It's amazing. And then they also have these big parades that's not just in the street. It's like literal parade that you have to like pay to see. And then several like different, they're called schools, but they're different, I don't know, like organizations. They each parade and they compete against each other, and it's so beautiful. So yes, I've been to Carnival and I love it.
Are there parrots in Brazil?
Yes, there are many parrots in Brazil. Brazil, as you may or may not know, has the Amazon, which is like this very big tropical forest. So we have a great variety of species, and Brazil has a lot of natural beauty. So yes, we have ferrets and probably many other species that I don't even know.
Right. Sai, is it true that there are sweet beans in Chinese ice cream?
Yeah, I think you're talking about red beans, and I think they put it in ice cream. They also use it in a lot of stuff, to be honest. So like the pastries I was telling you about, yeah, it mostly appears in sweet food.
How long did you each live in Brazil and in China?
Well, for me, I was in China for 4 years. I went in after my first year of high school, and I stayed there for 4 years.
And for me, my family was living here in the U.S. when I was born, but my whole family's Brazilian, and they just lived here for 3 years. So they moved back right after I was born. So I lived my whole life in Brazil. I only moved to the U.S. now in August to start college here. So I guess 18 years in Brazil.
Someone asked what your favorite American foods are.
Okay, something very basic for you probably, but for me is very special. Tater tots.
That's a really
We
good
don't
choice.
have them there, or at least I don't know where we have them. I'm pretty sure we don't. And I eat it every time I have it in the dining hall here in college. I eat it because it's amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm American, so I guess a lot of foods. But for me, mac and cheese, I think it's always my go-to if I'm feeling down or if I just need something easy to eat, and I never get sick of it. So,
Um, what are some of like the traditional dishes served in China and Brazil around holidays, like maybe Chinese New Year or something like that? If there's any special foods for holidays.
so aside from like jiaozi, like I told you guys about, Chinese New Year's, that is the main dish. Then there's another festival called Dragon Boat Festival that comes around, I want to say pretty soon actually, like May-ish, June. And there's something that they eat called zongzi, which is basically you take a leaf and you put a lot of sticky rice inside of it and you wrap it up and then you steam it. And the rice inside can be really plain. Sometimes people put, even make it kind of savory, salty, and other times, which is all the times that I've had it, people put either dates inside, or this is another instance where you could eat red bean. It's really sticky and it tastes pretty good. So, and aside from that, other traditional foods, there's Chinese hot pot. It's not necessarily something you eat on a holiday, but it's very, every area has its own kind of variation of it. And you can, honestly, that's my favorite Chinese food, which is partly why I'm mentioning it, but you can make it at home or you can eat it outside and just put a lot of different kinds of meats and vegetables and anything you really want to eat in there. So.
All right, for Brazil, I guess the two major holidays that we have special foods for are Christmas and New Year's, because they are two big holidays that we have these big like feasts, if I may say, at home. So you gather your whole family for Christmas, you gather your whole family for New Year, or you go with your friends. And then what we usually have is we have like this big turkey, and there's this food in Brazil called farofa, which is made of a type of flour, and it's amazing. One of my favorite things. We have, I don't know, for Christmas, there's this special like little sweet treat that I don't know how I would call it in English, but it's made of bread, but also they put cinnamon on it and sugar, and it's like amazing, and I love it. And we have it for Christmas. It's called rabanada. It's an amazing sweet. Unfortunately, I can't have it. I never mentioned this, but I am allergic to milk, so I actually can't have brigadeiros. But I ate them when I was younger, and I loved them. So I also can't have rabanada, but it's fine. There are many amazing foods in Brazil all year round.
Someone asked, have you been to any other countries besides China and Brazil?
For me, yeah, I've been to Taiwan, which some people consider a country, but it's a little bit different from China. I've been to somewhere in Europe a long time ago, but I've been to England and France before, so I've been to some other countries.
So I've been to Argentina, which is pretty close to Brazil. I came to the U.S. several times to vacation. I've also been to France and Italy. I think that's it.
Have you seen any wild pandas in China?
Actually, I have been to a panda reservation. Our school brought us there, and we saw a lot of, so that living in their kind of, not in their natural habitat in the forest, but we were able to see them, in the park, and they had a little room where all the panda babies were after being born. So it was a really cute, like, nursery with them all like lined up and sleeping. So I've seen that before. Yeah.
Do they speak English in Brazil?
So speaking English in Brazil, it's not very common. So it depends if you had the opportunity to learn. So we all speak Portuguese in Brazil. And the school system there right now is not in a very good position with the government. The government's not really funding anything. So I would say most people don't speak English, but I was very fortunate to go to an American school growing up, which is how I learned English. And I've been speaking it since I was 3, but I'd say many people don't have that opportunity.
What is the most popular sport in China?
Right now, soccer is pretty popular, I think. And I don't know if you guys know this, but at least a while ago when I was growing up, China is really popular for ping pong. It's still a really big sport in China. I played it during gym class a lot. It was one of our required activities. Yeah, I think ping pong, soccer, and badminton are some really big sports. Also basketball. There are a lot of really big sports in China. I can't say which one is people's favorites, but people are pretty active there.
And what is your favorite food or treat in Brazil or China? Or dish?
Okay, dish. Okay, the typical Brazilian dish is my favorite thing in the world. I could eat it every day forever, and I would be a happier person. But okay, so the typical dish is rice, beans, farofa, which is that thing I said before that's made of flour, steak, and French fries, and it's the best thing in the world. It's different probably from the rice and beans you guys have probably tried, because it's not the Mexican version that I guess it's why you have the most here in the U.S. is the Brazilian version, and this dish is just my life, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I mentioned it before, hot pot, but I didn't explain too well what it is. Essentially, you have like a pot it's a hot pot filled with water and kind of broth and soup, and you can have different flavors of broth, and then you sit with your family or your friends or whoever you're with, or maybe by yourself if you really feel like it, and you cook the food by yourself as you eat it. So there are a lot of places in China you can go that are either really cheap or really expensive to just go and kind of they have kind of base broth for you, and they offer you a lot of vegetables, and then you sit there for sometimes hours if you really want to, and like just cook your own meat and vegetables in the soup there right in front of you. So I think that's my favorite dish. I even figured out how to make it when I came back to the US. My mom and I finally figured out how to make it during the summer. So yeah, I think that's my favorite.
Awesome. Also, something I like to mention, if anyone ever happens to visit Brazil, the food there is very cheap in comparison if you convert it to dollars, because our currency right now, it's called real, and it's 4 times lower than the dollar. So a full course, like a full meal with like appetizer, entree, dessert would be like $10. So if you happen to go, you can eat a lot, which is awesome.
Sorry, we're going to.
Oh no.
They asked if you can speak Chinese and Portuguese. So I don't know if you want to tell them like a few like hello and goodbye or something like that.
So I can speak Portuguese. Oh, never mind. That was not the question. Yes, I can help you speak Portuguese. All right.
The question was if you can. But yeah.
Yes, I can. All right. So let me think of some words. Okay. So to say hello, you say oi, just O-I, oi. You guys can all say that to each other now. And if you want to say bye, that's ciao, which I think it's the same for Italian. So you can say that too to each other. And what else?
How are you?
Okay, so for asking how are you, you can say como você tá, which is, literally how are you. So como você tá. Then you do like ask it as a question. So como você tá? Ou como vai você? All right, cool. And one word that I love in Portuguese, you say it saudade, which is the word for whenever you say I miss you, you can say I have saudade, which is like this more, I don't know, it's less like I miss you, and it's more I don't know, it's like this abstract, beautiful concept. I just love that word, but
okay. So for Chinese, I speak Mandarin, so that's the only thing. That's the only Chinese language that I know, but it's the official one. So, and to say hello or just hi is ni hao. And Chinese is a tonal language, which means that when you say certain words, if you don't use a proper tone, people might not know what it is you're trying to say. Thankfully, ni hao is a pretty common phrase, but for other words, sometimes you have to think about the tone that you're saying it. So with ni hao, it's like first tone, which is ni, and then third tone, which is hao. So ni hao, sorry, second tone, third tone. Ni hao is how you would say that. And then if you want to ask how someone is, you would say ni hao ma, which is So the ni hao literally means you good or you good, and then ni hao ma is are you good, and then ma adds a question. So ni hao ma. And if you want to say to someone I'm good, you could say 我很好我很好, which means I'm very good.
What are some of the popular or common animals in China or Brazil? If you guys happen to know, if there's any that are different, maybe than the
So
US?
something I thought was very interesting when I moved here is that whenever you're walking around, you just see squirrels everywhere. We don't have that in Brazil. I mean, we have squirrels, but that's not what you see when you're in the streets. You see pigeons, a lot of pigeons everywhere. Not my favorite animal. I prefer seeing squirrels on the streets, but pigeons are very populous in Brazil.
With China, you guys asked before about pandas. Those are not a common animal, but they're kind of a famous one. And then in maybe the cities, I'd say there are a lot of magpies, which are, I mean, if you've heard of a magpie, it's a bird, and it's kind of just a black and white bird. I didn't expect to see, like, it's quite big. It doesn't look like a pigeon at all. It looks kind of like almost like a crow almost, which was really surprising to see it just in the city around some places, but like I have seen those as well.
Do you happen to know like the significance of the dragon in China or why people use that in celebrations?
I know that in China, yeah, I've heard that the dragon is, I guess, for a long time, I think it was associated with the emperor. So like with his power and kind of, I think it's quite a lucky animal in China as well, but I'm sorry, I don't know like the full history on that animal.
And do you prefer chopsticks or a fork?
Surprisingly, chopsticks. When it comes to eating some Chinese food, it's actually quite easy to use.
And what are some of the American foods that you see in China and Brazil, or American restaurants?
So we also have fast food places. So we have McDonald's in Brazil, and we probably have other ones, but there are two like major cities, and there are many big cities, but I guess I would say I think the most populous ones are Rio and São Paulo. And then I guess São Paulo has more of like the American like restaurants and American stores, but Rio has McDonald's, and we have our own one called Bob's, which is like the same thing. And we have Burger King. We have junk food places, but overall we have a lot of restaurants that are like typical Brazilian cuisine.
For China, I think, yeah, we also have quite a few fast food places. KFC is actually really popular in China, and I actually really like the food there as well. We have McDonald's, Burger King. Recently, Dunkin' Donuts opened in China as well, which was a really big deal for a lot of people. And then pizza is another kind of, I know technically it's from Italy, I guess, originally, but, American style pizza is something that's really popular there as well. I think that's mostly it.
And how old are you guys? And have you done this travel by yourself, either to Brazil or to the US or China? Yeah.
Okay, so I am 19 years old. So I lived in Brazil with my family, so I never lived there by myself, but since I moved here, I had to go back to Brazil for winter break, and I took the plane by myself, which was like this big deal because it was the first time, and I was so nervous, but it was completely fine. But yeah, that was the most. I actually never stayed in Brazil by myself.
So I'm actually 21 now, and I have gone back and forth to China, to the US from China, by myself before, just because sometimes I like to come back for the summer to spend time with my family, and so I think my first time going by myself was maybe in 10th grade or so. I think I was around 16 years old, which was kind of scary, but you get used to it eventually, I guess.
And they said, did the government in China treat foreign students well, or just in general, maybe your experience as a foreign student there?
So for me, I went to a Chinese kind of government school, technically a public school. And I think they treated us mostly well. As a foreign student, They're pretty patient with you, especially when you're learning Chinese, since it's not your first language and it's a pretty difficult language to learn. So even though there are some expectations there, it's not necessarily too, difficult, or they're not expecting too much from you. And then just in general treatment, I think they treated me pretty well. I learned a lot, and people are very accommodating in China to foreigners in general. I think, if you, follow the rules and kind of treat other people with respect, then they will also treat you nicely. And there are a lot of people in China who speak English, more than I expected. So there are some times when you get lost or you need help, and that's also a time when people will kind of help you out as well, I think.
That's about the population of Brazil, which is...
Yeah, I looked it up.
Okay.
Yes. I saw that question. I looked it up. I don't know the statistics, but so 209 million people in Brazil. Very, very populous. Rio, which is where I grew up, 6 million people. So really big city. Really, really, really big city. I also pulled up the stats for New York. New York has 8.6 million. So Rio has 6.3. So you can imagine really big. Think about like New York, like amount of people. And then we have another city which is really, really big, and it's called São Paulo, as I mentioned it before, and they have 14.7 million people. So think like way more than New York. That's São Paulo. So.
And what other kinds of sports are popular in Brazil in addition to soccer?
So I guess soccer is the most popular one, but we also have all other sports. We're not good in I'm not gonna say we're not good because I don't know, but we probably don't have a lot of winter sports because Brazil it's always hot there. But we have basketball, we have volleyball, we're good at volleyball, I'm pretty sure. And I have a friend who's her father is one of the champions in sailing for the world. So we're good in several other sports. We're in the Olympics, but I guess soccer is really the major one.
I think there's a question about what are your favorite things to do in Brazil or China? Maybe certain activities you do there or something you've done there. Yeah.
So I lived in Ipanema, which I don't know, you may know. It's by Copacabana, which also you may not know, but it's fine. So I lived 1 block from the beach my whole life. So that was always a fun thing to do. It's always hot in Brazil, as I said. The coldest it ever gets, at least in Rio, is 60 something degrees. So you can always go to the beach and it's fun. You can go with your friends. And since you're all if you all live right there, you don't even have to plan ahead. You can just be let's go to the beach now, and you just go. So it's great. And then we have movie theaters just here. That's something we do. We have bowling, we have everything, but definitely beach is a big one.
For me, since it was a city, there's a lot of kind of city-based stuff to do. And I think one of my favorite things is just to kind of hang out. There are a lot of malls in China. They're huge, huge malls. I don't even know how to just describe the size of them, but hundreds of stores, so many floors in them with same idea as here, but think of the mall, and probably 2 times the size of that. It's huge. So that was something that was really fun for me, just walking around, but also as an actual activity to do, something that's really kind of that you have to do as a foreigner, we say, is go to the Great Wall. So some people have been there 6 or 8 times, and just take a walk, because there's so many different portions of the Great Wall, depending on where you go. So around Beijing, there are a few that are either really difficult, so really steep, where you almost have to sit down on each step as you go up. And then there are some that are really, relaxed, where you can just kind of walk around and stuff. Yeah, I think that's something that's really fun. It's hard. It's really difficult. So if you're someone who really likes being active, that's something that's probably really fun for you. But yeah, that's another thing that I really enjoy doing.
And what are the schools like in China and Brazil? Maybe some similarities or differences to school here?
I guess, as I mentioned before, the school system right now in Brazil is not great because the government, as I said, it's not really funding the schools. They're not paying the teachers as they should. So it's not in a great position right now. The public schools are not great. So I went to an American school, and I have friends who went to German schools. I have friends who went to British schools. So we have some schools that are like international, which I guess is different from here. I don't know if you have many schools that are like mainly taught in another language. But yeah, the public schools right now are not in a good position.
China is around the same like kind of school system where we have a lot of international schools, but then there are so many local schools as well. And in China, something that's interesting is that, you know, in the US, our perception is that private schools are usually like thought as, you know, better than public schools. But in China, it's actually the opposite, where if you go to a public school, it's a lot better than a private school. um, yeah, so there are a lot of, you know, the Canadian school, German school. My own school was actually a Chinese school, but it had an international section, which is also quite common. Oh, we have another camera on. Hi. Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, international schools like that as well. But yeah, the schooling it's really difficult for so for Chinese students, something that they have to do before they go to university is take a huge test. It's almost like, if you think about the SAT, for some of you, I don't know if that's definitely not in your near future, but something called Gaokao, which literally means like big test or like tall test, and they take it. Everyone has to take it before they go into Chinese university. So
maybe do one or two more.
okay.
And is there special clothing to wear in China or Brazil? Maybe daily life or traditional events?
So I'd say for Brazil, we use clothes pretty similar to what you guys wear here in America, but the summer clothes. So we're in a constant summer. So just like shorts every day, rompers, just dresses. It's pretty like, at least I'm in like a beach city, so people are always just like wearing their bikinis under their clothes, just very chill.
Yeah, they also asked a little bit about weather in China, hot or cold,
Yeah.
but clothing and weather.
So for China, so to answer clothing first, there is something called qipao, which is a traditional Chinese clothing. And then in terms of weather, there are a lot of different kind of environments in China. So there's desert in the west, and then where I was in Beijing was kind of northern China. So it's more similar to the weather that we have here, I think. Maybe not as hot as here in like North Carolina, but if you think like the northeast of the US, which is where I'm from originally, it's pretty similar. And it can get really freezing there. So like just the northeast of China, somewhere called Harbin, you know, it's known for like ice hotels and like people's eyelashes freezing and stuff. But then in the south, you have Hong Kong, which is always really like humid and hot, and yeah, it rains a lot there as well. So there's a lot of different environments. But in terms of clothes, it's like you said, pretty similar to the US, I think.
I don't know if you need to go, Salma. I don't know if you want to answer questions for a few more minutes.
Answer a few more.
I read one here about if we have schools on Saturday. I don't know if it's here or there. At UNC, we don't have school on Saturday. In Brazil, I'd say it depends on your school. My school didn't have school on Saturday, or at least it was like very occasional. But I know several schools, like I have friends who had class every Saturday.
In China, do they have a Saturday school? Or?
Actually, yeah, I think recently they stopped doing that. But I know when I went my first year, they have a strange system where when you have a holiday, they will have you make up the Saturday before or after it. So that was something that was strange for me. But yeah, there are some schools that have that all the time.
All right. I'm going to have to go. Sai's going to stay here. I have class in like 15 minutes. But I would like to thank everyone so much. You guys have been a great audience. We loved sharing about these foods with you guys. And your questions were amazing. We had such a great time. So thank you again for coming this morning. And enjoy the rest of the Q&A with Sai. Thank you.
Thanks, Selma.
Bye, Selma.
So is it true that in China it's common to eat cat or dog? It's a common question.
Yeah. So it's not common. Definitely not common. I won't say that it's never happened before. And there was kind of a controversy like a little while ago with kind of a festival, I think, for dog eating, but it's not something that people like really do a lot, or I've never seen it either. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's common.
Are there any special dances in China or Brazil? I can say in Brazil there's the samba.
Mm.
Yeah.
China, yeah, I think there probably are some traditional dances. I don't know any, but probably related to like performing and stuff.
They asked if you play video games, but maybe you could also talk. I don't know if you know much about video game playing in China, or just you personally.
I personally, not anymore. I used to when I was younger. I like video games. In China, though, there's a huge video game culture. I've never been to one, but there are a lot of computer cafes, like PC. I forget how it's said, but yeah. Yeah, you can go and like order food and stay there for like hours and hours using the computers, and a lot of people use that for playing games and stuff. And then hand phone games is apparently like on the rise as well. So even if you're not someone who has like a video game console or can use a computer really well, you can also just kind of use your hand phone and play that way. A lot of people on the subway are constantly with their head down like this playing video games. So.
What kind of traditional games do you play, or do they have in China?
So there is something called mahjong, which is I don't really play many traditional Chinese games, but I have learned a little bit about them. Then there's kind of Chinese chess, which is fun as well. So yeah, those are two of them.
Are there any special colors in China?
Special colors. I think red is a really important color for China. It's the color of the flag, and it's also kind of a symbolism, I think, for China and being really patriotic and caring about the country. So there's an oldish sort of saying, I think people still use it in Chinese, that it literally means like if someone is very red, it means that they love their country a lot. They're very patriotic. And it like hun hong, which is just very red. So
someone asked if there's rainbows in China.
Yes, there are rainbows.
And also, do you water pants? Maybe you wear pants. Here's how about in front. Do they do kung fu?
They do. Chinese in martial arts, it's very popular. So a lot of movies, when they come out, people love seeing kung fu movies. Something that people do a lot as well is Tai Chi, if you've heard of it. A lot of old people in the park. So sometimes when I'd go to school, I'd see them practicing Tai Chi really early in the morning. But yeah, people definitely do kung fu in China.
Are there popular stores or shops in China?
There is one that I've been to that I think it might be based in Japan, but it's something called Miniso, and it's kind of like there's everything in there. It's like there's makeup, there are a lot of plushies, like stuffed animals, food, and it's just a really cute place to go into. It's all over China that I really like going in there because I always find something new. But yeah, and then other than that, a lot of the same stores we have here, Zara, Forever 21 are also there. There are some Chinese brands, a lot of kind of independent stores, but those are some big ones as well. Yeah.
The time difference, which I think is 12 hours?
Yeah, 12 hours. During daylight savings, I want to say it's 13 hours, but yeah, 12-hour difference.
Any traditional games that you know anything about? Or toys, actually, it was toys.
Toys. People play with tops in China a lot. So sometimes at night when you're walking around, there'll be like a lot of older people as well, actually. So there's like a top, and like you use the kind of stick with a string on it, and you keep hitting it so that it keeps spinning, and it's actually really cool to see, and it's really loud as well, but that's cool. And then if you guys know anything about hacky sack, there's kind of a Chinese version with there's a lot of little plates with like feathers sticking out, and it always falls like on the flat side, so people use it and like kick it around together. And again, a lot of older people use that as well. So old people in China are very active.
Do you have any friends in China?
Yes, all my high school friends. Yeah, I actually went back there this summer, so if you guys saw at the beginning, that was also where I went.
And what type of religions are there in China?
Religion, I think Buddhism is a really famous one right now, or not famous, but I guess I'd say popular. Yeah, really common. There, Christianity is also there, but China is mainly like a kind of atheist, I guess I'd say almost. Like they don't really. Yeah, I can't say what an official kind of really popular religion is because many people in China aren't very religious.
Do you know anything about musical instruments in China or common ones?
There are some pretty there are a lot of traditional Chinese instruments. There's a movie I watched recently actually. I mean, I don't know if you guys would be able to watch it. It's in Chinese, but yeah, they have something called what is it called? I can't remember the name of it. It's a very there are a lot though. Lots of string instruments. So my mom is actually trying to learn how to play one right now. It's kind of like if you think of a same type of instrument almost as a harp, but it has a lot of strings going down like this, like in front of you, and like you play it like this way with some really special nails that you wear. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it right now for some reason. But yeah, there's that. There's kind of a Chinese guitar that they hold like this. There are flutes, Chinese drums, bells. Yeah, there are a lot of traditional Chinese instruments.
All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock. So thank you so much, everybody that joined us. Thank you for all your great answers to our questions and for all of your questions. And we will be back in 10 minutes for our next presentation. I believe the next one is dance and music in Ethiopia and Jordan. So we're going to turn our camera off and then we'll be back at 10:10. So bye, everybody.
Nice to meet you guys.